Hello, and welcome to Sutro Sidetalk, episode 144. I am your host, Kamran Shushtar, and with me is...
James Seelig.
And we are once again joined for the third time by... I think it's Boba Fett, Demon Slayer.
Yeah, it was.
By Andreas. And dude, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure.
And I appreciate your background there.
It's a nice themed background.
Yeah, I gotta have... This guy's the one who needs to leave. These other two can stay.
Hey. It's all about the underlay.
I know.
But we are here to finally talk some Destiny 2, the Witch Queen, along with Season of the Lost. And if we have time, I'm not sure if we will, but Season of the Risen as well, or at least like what we got so far, because it feels like it ended already kind of.
Yeah, super strange. Yeah. It has to be like a last week mission or something, but we'll see.
But we also got news this week for all gaming. Everything is gaming today. But E3, PlayStation, so we'll be talking about like the new PlayStation Now, PlayStation Plus combination that they're doing, and then the cancellation of E3 for this year. And of course, guys, how are you doing this week? It's a new week, and
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah,
I maybe like was a little bit sleep deprived this week. Like, I don't know. I just like one day I was just like super tired, and then I like didn't get good sleep that night, and I was just messed up for like days.
Dang.
Other than that, I'm doing fine.
Yeah, can't complain. It's been a good week for me. Similar things. I think this time of year, I don't know what it is. It's been not a lot of rest.
It's that spring start, man.
It's just part of it. Yeah, the allergy season hit too.
Oh yeah,
the change of the season definitely does it to you.
Robins are out, pollen's out, everything's out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the sun is out more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of fun stuff, and we'll be going longer than we did last week. Last week was 45 minutes, and I was still hot off the surgery recovery, feeling like crap. But yeah, things are different now, and I feel more energetic to talk compared to last week, where I was like, "Hey guys, welcome to the new episode." So
it's the smooth jazz 3 a.m. episode.
Yeah,
you know?
Welcome to the lounge. But yeah, we got a lot more to say here, and just like previous more featured content for Destiny, it's gonna be broken down into various topics that we'll be going through to have it more organized and kind of tackle everything that we can. But let us just jump right into the news. And because these are some big pieces, James, if you want to set a 10-minute timer for each one, that'll be the maximum time. But we'll start off, of course, with the new PlayStation Plus tiers that were created. And, you know, we knew about this for a while. They were calling it Project Spartacus. They combined PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus. It's been rumored for so long now, and then we finally got the, I guess, leak that it would be showing up sometime this past week we just had. And the reveal was, you know, pretty much what I expected, kind of.
It's a little lackluster for me.
It was overhyped, but the crazy thing was Sony never hyped it up to begin with.
That's true.
Yeah. It was just everyone's like, it's gonna be big, or they gotta do this, and Sony just never said anything and went, here it is, PlayStation blog post, come read about it. And then that was it. There was no like,
I think the reason why there was so much hype is just because Microsoft has been killing it with Game Pass for like the last year or so. And people were like, well, wouldn't it be awesome if Sony had an equivalent to that? And we were hoping that it was going to be that. And, you know, come June, we might try it out. And it's like, oh yeah, this is just as good as Game Pass, maybe better, because there's, at least on paper, more games on it. But I don't know, it's just the way they revealed it. It's just like, yeah, it's just kind of combining PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus.
Mm-hmm.
Take it or leave it. And I don't know, it might be cooler than that, but it just, I think Microsoft rolled out Game Pass with a lot more like flair. And when I vaguely remember at the time going like, they're not going to get me to pay monthly to like download a bunch of random games. And now I'm like, I can't live without Game Pass.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It has all the games I want to play and more. So I don't know. I think that's why people got like hyped at the potential of a Sony Game Pass. And then this comes out and it's like, oh, it's basically what we already had, but just better priced, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question for you, Cameron, because you're a PlayStation master. Maybe both of you are, but I know Cameron a little better, unfortunately. Does PlayStation have like a cloud streaming on mobile platform? Because I know PlayStation Now. Okay, so yeah, so PlayStation Now is right, their streaming platform.
Mhm.
And that's why a lot of the PS3 stuff is there, because it's cell architecture nightmare. But I think for me, one of the biggest strengths of Game Pass is that you can boot up your phone, play the same saves that you have on any of your other Game Pass games on your phone through streaming at home, on the couch, wherever, when you're out and about. And it's great. I play a lot of games that way. And it's superior to Stadia, like in every single way possible. And I'm wondering, is remote play that robust, where you can be anywhere, you don't have to be near your hardware, or do you have to be near your hardware to do it?
So the way remote play works is instead of streaming off of some random PlayStation server, it streams from your PlayStation.
That's what I thought. Yeah, which is not going to be.
It's just kind of like a weird long range hotspot.
Yeah,
and that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
It really depends on how good your internet is and the internet where you are.
Yeah, exactly.
So it can be okay, and it could be really dodgy.
It could be on like a train, and then all of a sudden tunnel. Fuck no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
And yeah, like so far my experience with Game Pass is just so much more seamless, and it works so well.
It's super strong.
It's like so shocking how well it works.
Yeah. I think the only thing they've been really doing is the partnership with Apple, that like, it works well on iPhones, and then you even go to an Apple store and there's PlayStation 5 controllers at
That's true.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's not as robust whatsoever.
But there's also no like PlayStation Now app for iOS, or even on like I tried to look it up. I can't play PlayStation Now on my MacBook because they have a Windows app, but they don't have a Windows app. No, a Mac app. So
yeah.
Then I can absolutely play Game Pass xCloud on my Mac, because they just figured out how to do it on a web browser page.
Yeah, exactly. So in order to compete, that's mainly my point, is they're going to have to do this because it's the future. And I think that's one of the reasons they might not have hyped it, is because they know that it's not feature complete yet. So they're just like, it's more of just a combo bundle, and then in like a month or two we can hype it up with some crazy new features or exclusives or something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The moment they say God of War 2 is a day and date release with this new PlayStation package, it is the day people actually care about it. Right now there's really nothing to care about,
which will never happen. I highly, but I guess first off, just going through like what the tiers are like. There's Essential, which is 2 monthly game downloads, exclusive content or exclusive discounts, cloud storage for saved games, and then the free, or not free, but like access to multiplayer online.
It's basically exactly what PlayStation Plus is currently. Unchanged.
And I noticed now they're lowering the games to 2 in June. Right now it's currently 3. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I'm pretty sure they're gonna probably subtract a PS4 game, so now it'll be 1 PS5, 1 PS4 game, because before, at its height it was 6, because it was
like 2 PS4, 2 PS3, 2 Vita or PSP games or something like that,
and then they lowered it for a bit to just I think 2 PS4 games. And then they brought in the PS5 games, starting I think with Bug Snacks, which I will say, at least the PS5 games, they've been like doing good with that, at least, like because all the good games for Xbox are on Game Pass. When you look at Games for Gold, you don't look at Games for Gold, because
I literally don't bother.
They're never Gold. There's nothing ever good.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just weird stuff.
Yeah, they don't really need it anymore. It's not really necessary at this point. Whereas PlayStation, it is, just because PlayStation Now, they've been separate this whole time, but most likely the games you're going to see on PlayStation Plus, at least the 2 free ones, probably will never, like, the PS5 games you'll probably won't see on PlayStation Now as soon as you'll see them on Plus. But
I could see them put them on like a year after release or something like that. But
yeah,
we'll see.
And then there's the Extra, is what the second tier is called. And for this one, it gives you all benefits from the Essential tier, plus the catalog of up to 400 of the most enjoyable PS4 and PS5 games, including the blockbuster hits from PlayStation Studios, et cetera, et cetera. And they're all, downloadable. And then we have Premium, which is going to have all of that plus 340 additional, or I guess up to additional games, including PS3 games via cloud streaming, it says specifically, and then a catalog of beloved classic games available in both streaming and download options from the original PlayStation, PS2, and PSP generations. Offers cloud streaming access for original PlayStation, PS2, PSP, PS4 games, and then the PlayStation Now is currently, let's see, yeah, everything on PC as well. So you can do on all this on PS4, PS5, and PC. And then time-limited game trials, the most exciting thing you could possibly hear.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm most curious about, because they didn't say how widespread that would be. Like, can you download a trial of every game on their marketplace and try it for like a few hours? Or is it just like, back on the PS3, there was like some games that would have a trial like that, but it was like maybe a dozen total.
Yeah, it'll be a select handful for sure.
And the pricing
people into it
is more or less like understandable. $10 pretty much monthly, 60 yearly. It's all like 99.
You definitely want the yearly subscription if you want to save some money, because it's like for this the highest tier, I literally keep forgetting what it's called. It's like $18 a month, or it's like $120 a year.
Pretty much. The extra is 15 and then 100 a year, and then premium is 18 and 120. And I was looking at I looked at Game Pass Ultimate, and it's about 180 a year.
Yeah, that's like $15 a month, and I don't think they have a yearly bundle.
They don't, because they're so here you do get discounts if you get the like higher amount of time. You will pay a lot less.
Yeah.
I think I checked it. It was around like 80 or $90 less if you do yearly compared to monthly for like the premium subscription.
Yeah.
And then Game Pass Ultimate, just from past experience of trying to sell the shit out of that, you definitely don't get anything changed from monthly, quarterly, yearly. It's all the same price no matter what you choose. You're not going to get a difference there. And then it's $60 more, but of course you're getting like also EA Play, and I forget
Ubisoft. It's Ubisoft.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting they keep adding stuff to.
There's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
So you get those. Sorry.
Yeah. No. My final thought on this PlayStation Plus stuff, I just realized, is this will be worth it. I'll pay whatever they ask if I can play Metal Gear Solid 4.
I literally said that last night.
Other than a PlayStation 3, I literally bought a PlayStation 3 about 2 years ago just to play MGS4, and it hurts because it's not as good as it could look these days. So please just hear my prayer.
I think that's
but you could still at least hear Akiba. I want to hear Akiba under a trash can shitting in 3D audio with like the full Sony Tempest capabilities.
I mean, you can feel it on the Rumble. Anyways,
that 10-year vet feel. You can have it on PS5. But
just another thing the Game Pass does better for older games is like some games have like frame rate boost and like and resolution boost and stuff like that. It makes older games literally look and feel better. And I don't know if Sony's gonna bother with that.
When they were doing the PS2 classics, they were doing boosts for the PS2 games specifically. They didn't for the PS1, but then again, they didn't even actually bring the PS1 games onto that platform. That was only on PS3 for some reason. Like they never brought it to PS4. But specifically for PS2, they did just do it for that gen. But yeah, like I said, like, of course, the other thing Game Pass Ultimate has is the day one releases for all their games, which when you look through them, I think we were talking about it yesterday, looking at both, it makes sense why Game Pass Ultimate's more expensive. You're getting more from like multi-subs, like more or less, you're getting the day ones, which you're overall saving a lot more money depending on, well, I guess it depends on how many first party games they actually release. Because I mean, we know some of them take
even still like
more time or get like crazy delays, but
some of the third party and indie stuff that they put on there is also just absolutely worth it. Like
Tunic is one of the games of the year. Like that game is insane.
And Tunic, I got to get to. Hades, I've been wanting to play for a long time. I just keep putting it off for like other games. Like there's so much on there.
Scorn eventually, right?
Dude, I literally Scorn was one of the games I bought my Series X for, and I'm literally every once in a while I'm like, When's Scorn coming out?
Nope.
Like what?
The answer is nope.
The acclaimed shooter, what's it called? Crossfire X. I know everyone's been hungry
Remedy's best game.
Yeah. But looking at PlayStation stuff, like I think the big thing here is the big deal that everyone was wondering and seeing if they were actually going to do was that not the PS3 portion, because that was already there in PlayStation Now already. Like it's exactly the same before, where it's like you could stream it. What about download? We haven't figured that shit out yet. Well, maybe
I feel like they could figure that out. It's just they don't want to spend the amount of money on it that they don't think it would be like a return on investment, I guess.
Yeah. Is Metal Gear Solid 4 on there already? Is it one of those PS3 games? I feel like it would be. Did you ever check, Andreas? Or is it not?
I'm not gonna play a streaming version of Metal Gear Solid.
Just already having the loading that takes forever, and now it's stream loading, and just like, oh fuck. Well, now you just loaded the stream. Now you can load the game after the stream is loaded, so it's double loading. You can make 2 sandwiches, not just one. But there's the PS1, PS2, and PSP, and I'm actually shocked we're getting the PS. I was like, oh, we're actually doing the PSP. All right, like I'm very happy to see that that's one of the things being added there, and only 340 games. I can imagine like potentially you're getting now, even though we have remasters on the PS4, most likely you're going to see like all the top tier, like the original versions of Crash, Metal Gear Solid, Spyro, Parasite Eve, Final Fantasy, all that kind of stuff, all the classic PS2 games. If they put Mercenaries on there, it's done.
All right, Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5 are on PlayStation Now, apparently.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it's still streaming for 4, so that's still like, but PSP too, I'm really excited.
Dude, there are a lot of games on PlayStation Now,
Resistance Retribution, because my PSPs are dead.
Dude, that's the first game I want to play for PSP if it's on there, because it's gonna look terrible on my big I don't have like a massive TV, but like it's definitely gonna look bigger than on a PSP screen, and that's not gonna look good blown up.
Yeah,
but that game is awesome.
I guess just really fast, do you guys feel overwhelmed, underwhelmed by just this announcement?
I feel like currently underwhelmed, but we'll see how my opinion changes in June when it actually comes out and we get to try it out. And if it's like anywhere near as competent as Game Pass, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised and probably be like happy with it, because I just love the convenience of Game Pass.
Exactly. All I care about is PC integration. Like
that too.
The moment they make the PC a platform of choice for playing their titles is the moment of such a wider audience gets hit by that, and that's big. I think they see that. They're like, Horizon.
Yeah, now that they're putting everything on there.
So just more of that. Let's get more of that, guys.
Yeah, I'm pretty much whelmed. I'm disappointed specifically with the PS3 streaming more than anything. The prices make perfect sense. I don't think they're too much to ask for, honestly.
Especially the yearly prices.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to change from what would be their current essential version right now. Just like if I didn't already have like multiple years of Game Pass, I probably wouldn't have Game Pass either, just for the sheer fact of my own personal horrifying backlog of games. So I don't need to be like subscribing for streaming like for these subscriptions when
it's so paralyzing to have it's so paralyzing to have a backlog and then also look at Game Pass and be like, there's so many games I want to play here.
Yeah, but then
I can play all the Yakuza.
Definitely. I think the one thing that maybe some people were disappointed by that I just honestly never thought would happen anyway, and I don't care that it's not there, is the day one like games for PS5 exclusives, or like the all those games like God of War, Ragnarok, and all that stuff on there, just because those are all games I would be paying normally for separately, just like I would for certain games on Game Pass if they were first party games that were good enough. Unfortunately, the ones that have come out already so far that have been like big first party, I haven't I realized I'm like, well, if Game Pass wasn't there, would I have bought them? And I think about it, I'm like, did I buy Gears 4 and Halo 5? I'm like, no, I didn't. I don't want to fucking buy those games until it was on Game Pass. The games I want that I would buy are still not even, I don't even think they're coming out this year. It's like Avowed, Senua's Saga. I will say I'm buying Starfield, but that's just specifically for Steam mods. Like that's why I'm buying that game.
Right.
But it's all the ones that were bought, not like already there and stuff. So that's pretty much what I'm waiting for there. Otherwise, yeah, that's I think everything PlayStation for that. Moving on to E3, this was really big. They pretty much canceled the physical E3 event for 2022 that they were working on. That would have been this coming June, and only like now, I guess technically 2 months. And they are not doing a digital event like they did last year. Whereas, you know, the year before they skipped. There's been a lot of like, you know, talk of, is E3 dead? Is it actually going to come back? And they have stated they're like, we all will be like back better than ever in 2023, more organized and just like ready to bust out there, I guess. I don't know. But I am unsure by what they're trying to do here, or if they really want to continue considering all things like it with everyone backing out, Sony, EA, Nintendo more or less isn't really there either. And all that's left is really like Microsoft and Ubisoft and Bethesda. Wait, no, I guess just Microsoft and Ubisoft. And I guess you could say Square Enix and Devolver, but you know, it's just kind of flopping around at this point.
Yeah. I forgot where I was gonna go with that. Sorry.
And you know, Andreas and I, we've both been. You've been much more than me. I went to 2014 specifically for E3. I even went to the Microsoft press conference, which was really fun. I do like. It's like one of those things where, do we need E3 at this point?
Right.
With the publishers, they make it so you don't necessarily have to have that anymore, and they just kind of do their events now whenever they want to. You've seen Ubisoft do Forward.
Digital platforms really destroyed the purpose of E3 in general, because it was created so that investors would come and watch the big.
It was never a fan thing to begin with.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
and like the press could come in and cover certain games. And stuff like
right.
that.
The press would cover stuff, and then investors would come in and say, "Oh, that game looks really cool. I'm from Walmart, and I'm in charge of ordering how many copies for the entire nation." Like that's how big E3 was, where it's like, well, this got all these awards at E3, so I'm going to order 1 million copies for all of United States distribution for the first month at Walmart of this game. So that's what it was for, because you had Toys R Us, Target, you know, mom and pop stores, EB Games back in the day. There's a bunch of other, there was a lot of boxed retailers, you know. Now that's pretty much completely dead and killed by the top three. There's really no reason to go. The other thing is, because press were the only ones playing games there, they could show much earlier builds. Now, because anyone can go, it's like, oh, we got to show our best stuff, because if 20 million people go play this game and then they go and tell their friends that it's complete trash and it's broken because they're not game developers, they don't understand how making a game works, we're going to get so much bad press by word of mouth and TikTok and Instagram, and things just explode now on the internet, that it can really destroy the momentum of your title. So everything that's shown there is super polished and honestly way more boring because of it. Because if you go to E3, like when I went, I think it was 2018, it was one of the years I went, they were showing off Spider-Man for the first time. And it was like, oh shoot, Spider-Man's going to be a huge game. I got to go play that. And then I look at my calendar and I'm like, it's coming out in 3 months. Like, I'm not going to go play this. Was that when
Puddlegate happened?
Yeah, I think it was. That was literally what it caused it. That was the same year that Forsaken came out, I think. Or Activision was showing off Forsaken, which was really cool because I got to play Gambit. And that was interesting because Gambit was very different at E3 than it was when it came out. So that was a nice, like, getting to see what it was going to be or where it could go. And they were truly testing the game out. Whereas, you know, the Spider-Man demo was just the same game that everyone was going to play in the next 3 months. So I feel like a little bit of the beauty and the luster and the behind the scenes feel of E3 is just kind of completely erased now. So as a fan of games and the games industry, I feel a little less inclined to even want to go at this point, you know. And
it's when it was open more to public now, and it's even more crowded. Yeah. And you're waiting. I remember waiting in long ass lines, and then of course, press people just kind of bypass it all.
I had the industry pass, so
oh nice. I remember
it was very nice.
I was sitting in line for, I want to say, Call of Duty, and I was sitting there for so long, and when I got up, my legs didn't respond, and I was wearing a backpack,
Oh,
so
no.
I started falling
Just
backwards.
fall over.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, these
That's
aren't working,
amazing.
and I was just like, oh my god, and I'm just like, E3 is just kind of crazy.
It's kind of a nightmare. Yeah,
it is, and just to do like one thing, you're just in line for. It's insane. There's not even a fast pass system like at Disneyland. It's crazy, but the other thing too is like, I guess when you look at developers, they have to do all this extra work just to get that little slice out there, so it kind of disrupts their own development process too. So that's always been like an annoyance for them.
The famous Halo 2 7 months of dev time on work that never made it into the game store, you know, like that's very real, happens all the time still.
And like, why force yourself nowadays to hit an arbitrary deadline and maybe shoot yourself in the foot by showing off something that doesn't look good at like, because you didn't have enough time, or you just make a demo and release it when it's ready and have a good first impression.
I would say COVID is another factor in this, in the sense that, okay, so digital platforms killed the reason that E3 was invented, which was for our investors. But now COVID changed the way that people test games. Because before it was like, oh, come to E3 and test games out and we can get feedback and we'll send it back to the team. Now they realize we should just send people secure builds over the internet and let them test that way. And it's full NDA and it's like watermarks up the wazoo. I tested a bunch of pre-alpha stuff for Ubisoft this last year, and the amount of my gamer tag that's all over the screen literally makes it impossible to actually play the game, because it's like kind of crazy. I'm like, I think I'd like this game, but I don't really know what I'm doing. But they're getting to that point where like the internet has allowed us to test games as a remote tester without going into a facility and like keeping stuff under, you know, lock and key. So that's really also kind of killed the other aspect of E3, I feel like, where it's like getting feedback on the work that you've been doing for the last 5 to 6 years, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And also, did they even really have a good response to last year's all digital E3?
No.
Like,
it was.
I don't remember anyone really talking about it.
Nobody showed
like,
anything because everything got delayed. Like everything got delayed. Yeah. It was the Game Awards had more interesting, you know, stuff.
The age of E3 is over. The time of Jeff Keighley has begun.
Yeah, his little he just did a little smiley emoji the day they announced that E3 was dead physically, and that's all he responded to it. And I'm like, he's planning something already. He knows everybody.
The minute he pulled out of E3 that one year, you're just like, oh, what's happening? Something's happening here. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the ESA and their, you guys can look it up. Anyone who's listening, look it up. The ESA, who is in charge of setting up E3, has had a bunch of nightmare debacles, which have also like put a dark shadow over the whole thing as well. So that's
the year when they like doxed all their attendees.
Yep. Leaked the info of literally every media personality attending.
I didn't like your review, and now I can tell you to your face in your kitchen, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's the terrifying concepts.
Right?
No good.
Oh man, game journalism is hilarious. The other thing, I guess the one thing I liked about E3, the one advantage it had, because COVID gave us a lot of newer shows, and there was, I guess 2020 summer was that was, I think, the worst. That was the nightmare one.
Yeah, well, that was because like Keighley and IGN both were like, let's do
separate
like
shows,
a whole summer thing.
And IGN's like, oh, we mean the whole summer. Like, we're gonna do like all these different weekends, and then there's all these other minor shows that come in, and it's like, oh, let's just try to cover them all. By the end of the summer, we were so exhausted from talking about some of these games that I was like, I fucking hate this game now because I've talked about it like 3 times because they kept showing different trailers. And then we had such a backlog build up of actually like all the stuff. It was literally just news episodes at a certain point. It was horrifying. But E3 had everything in 1 week. It's an insane week. And you just get it all out in that 1 week. And I like, before, when that happened, we would usually put out like 2 or 3 episodes in that week. We'd just be like, here's the Microsoft EA, here's the PlayStation Ubisoft and stuff. And it was like super easy. It was like a lot of work in that week, but it was done after. You didn't have to think about it anymore. And that was something I really appreciated for it. And I think that's the biggest thing I would miss if it was gone. But also, like, as long as it doesn't get too crazy now, because we know, the minute this happened, I think it was the same day or the day after, all of a sudden you get the new Summer Game Fest logo. and it's like, hey, Summer Game Fest happening this in June. Looking forward to it, and you're like, oh yes, the Key League has arrived again, and IGN even did their own like, hey, we're gonna be covering Summer Game Fest too, and I'm like, okay, all right, you guys are doing your thing, but we're gonna be a lot more selective this year. I don't think we're gonna be doing all the random stuff like PC gaming show, and I made the mistake of watching, I think it was the Coke Media conference from last year, and I was like, this is a fucking, what the fuck is this? Why am I here?
I think that was everyone's response to that. It's just like, why did you do this to me?
Yeah, but
it was rough.
I will, like I said, I'll miss it. I'll miss that specific version of here's 1 week of everything. And I guess like that feeling of, I did have a great time in 2014 when I went, but at the same time, I don't want to be in an overcrowded place just trying to like spend 2 hours to play a game for 5 minutes and then go, is all right. So
yeah.
And then get some t-shirt that's an XL, and I'm like, why do you think we all need XLs? I don't understand this. It doesn't make sense.
You basically had to make your own fun the last 2 years. Like you had to go and look for things to do. Like I was lucky enough, and this is like my last story. I have a lot of stories, but this is my last one. I was lucky enough to go to the Rainbow Six booth, and no one was playing Rainbow Six because it's been out for like 7 years. But I was like, whatever, the day's about to end. I'm going to go in the Rainbow Six booth. Lo and behold, I end up talking to one of the devs who was like the lead on the character backstory narrative stuff. And then we ended up playing with her, a bunch of other devs on the same team against a team of streamers. And it was like a really fun little moment that just happened on the show floor. And there's a bunch of moments like that. And that's the reason it's fun. Not actually playing the games anymore. It's like meeting people and getting to talk about them. And they're like really excited to talk to you too. That's the good thing.
I got to enjoy that at the PlayStation. What was it called? PlayStation Experience? Was that what?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got to do that there. I remember just talking to devs and hanging out, and they'd be like, "Hey, you want this cool fucking PlayStation card?" I'm like, "All right, sure."
Exactly.
That was such a cool thing. There was just like a deck of cards that you collected and stuff. I didn't even get a complete set that one time we went, but it's just like it's a cool little like collector's item thing.
I feel like the XO event is probably the same vein of just like, hey, these are fun, these are for fans. I've never been to PAX. I also assume that's something similar too. But yeah, it's like these events seem like they're more, they were fan oriented. Those are for people that are like regular just to go and check it out. We were never meant to go to E3 to begin with. So it was never for us.
We touched something that was forbidden.
We flew too close to the sun and then it got swallowed up. Yeah. But that's it for the news. And now it's finally time to talk Destiny 2, the Witch Queen. Well, actually first, Season of the Lost, which was like Season of the Arrival, where we were there for 6 months? We were lost for about 6 months.
It was long.
It took a while for us to get found. It was quite a process. But there were two, not usually there's, when the seasons come out, there's one activity we'll get, and it's more or less like some big either 3 or 6 player activity, and this time we got a 3 player and a 6 player activity from it, which first off was Astral Alignment was our big 6 player one, and you're going through these different platforms, either fighting, I believe, Scorn or Taken, if I remember correctly.
Those are the 2 types. And Hive, it was 3.
It was
a cycle
okay.
of 3, I think.
Yeah, and they had like a a regular version and a legendary version, and it was actually the legendary was actually challenging. Like you
it was really hard
team to get through it. So I didn't really do it that many times on legendary, but more or less it was a fun, rather quick activity, you could say. It didn't take too long. Did you guys feel like it was better or worse than like our previous seasonal activities that we've gotten in that sense? Because that was pretty much the same type as like what we've gotten before. In that sense,
I thought Astral Alignment was fine. Like it wasn't maybe the most exciting thing. I still think, and a lot of people say this, Menagerie is still probably my favorite like 6-man activity.
It's one of the best ever.
Yeah, but it was fine. I liked that there were like at least a handful of different objectives to do, so it didn't feel too stale most of the time.
I wish there was more not secret but special triumphs for it, because once we discovered those, it made the gameplay a lot more enjoyable, where it's like, oh, everyone has to dunk us in the taken pools, like not just one person. So each person had, like, giving everybody a specific role in these is a really cool idea that I think they need to somehow kind of continue. Like, I get they want these to be very accessible, but like if you're like, hey, you always do this, like a miniature raid, right? Like teaching people that dynamic of playing a raid would be, I think, to their benefit. And Menagerie kind of felt like that, which is why it was like really, really strong. The main thing I want to say about Astral and the season in general is the Dreaming City is one of the strongest environments they've ever made.
Oh yeah.
It is. I'm glad it didn't get vaulted.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. It looks incredible. It sounds incredible. The soundtrack is amazing.
So just like angelic.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. So having a whole season focusing on the Dreaming City and the characters who are, you know, central to it, it was very, very nice to finally get that back and give me a reason to come back to that place. Like, it's one of those places that it's just so enjoyable to be in. It's like, yeah, I'll go back. I don't care what I'm doing. If I'm grinding, I'll do it. So yeah,
makes sense. And
very good.
The activity too, like with the triumphs that they introduced for this time, I can't remember if they did it for Battlegrounds or not, but they made it so, you know, normally if you're in a random matchmaking of people, you can usually get a lot of stuff done, but you're probably not going to get certain triumphs done. It's too hard, whether it's finishing in 10 minutes or getting all of the I forget what they're called, the little projectiles that go towards the dead servitors, and you have to like shoot them, the little blue boys.
And not Axion darts.
I can't remember what they were called, but that, and then like your whole fire team cannot die, and you're just like, dude, like I'm playing with blueberries, we're fucked.
No, that one was really fun to get. Like,
it was like those types of triumphs are ones that force cooperation with either clan or if you're LFGing or with friends. So it's like it does introduce a lot of like, oh, you can't just do this singly now. Like it does want you to do more communication and teamwork that maybe the other activities didn't have as much, or at least didn't have the incentives of triumph points if you actually care about that shit or not. But because sometimes, you know, it's a little too much depending on what's going on. There's no emblem for it. It's like you want like a little bit of extra stuff there. Then the other was the Shattered Realm, which had 3 different versions that rotated through, as well as a legendary version. And ironically enough, was the legend for that was easier than the Astral.
A lot easier.
Solo that too, if you really wanted to. It was, I forget if I did all 3 or just one. I think I just wanted like the triumph done for it. But the interesting part too was these activities were proto versions for Witch Queen. Like when you're in the Shattered Realm, you're getting proto deep sight. And I'm not sure if everyone noticed that or not, but like, you're trying this time thing to see these platforms to get from like point A to point B, or go through barriers and things like that, or see things that are invisible. And it even had like similar sound effects a little bit. They changed it more so because you're like in the throne world instead, and it's like it sounds like darkness. They make darkness sound effects, but they have that, and then they even do like the weight version where there's like what's it called, like the sword territories.
Go
through and you're weighing
like
down.
Weight of Darkness or something. Like that.
It's similar to that of like when you're playing Crota and you're going from like those light bombs from one to the other, and they also have that too in one of the, I forget which strike it is, but one of the new strikes in Witch Queen does this as well, where you have to go through those areas and you get like weighted down to 10 or something, and you can like basically just like kind of slowly going. And having those different features and watching them just evolve throughout seasons or expansions has been interesting, because it does feel like when you're going through, I guess, like the non-expansion seasons, they're more or less experimenting, and then they'll try to perfect it in the expansion itself when it comes out, which is nice to see.
And it's weird because I feel like they're experimenting and they're not really looking for our feedback as much, because I'm pretty sure expansions and seasons start being worked on like almost a year. Like a year to 2 years in advance. So it's almost internally they're like, let's see what we can do, and then we'll perfect it. And by the time a big thing comes out, it's much better. So I like that they're confident enough in their own abilities to enhance ideas and concepts that they use this to their advantage. Like, it's very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys have anything else on the Shattered Realm?
I just really appreciated the like exploration of it. Like, it was really cool to, you know, throughout the season unlock those abilities you were talking about to like get through barriers and stuff like that, and just like have a reason to go back every week and be like, oh, what can I uncover this time and stuff like that. Like,
it definitely,
I really liked that.
It gives you that Metroidvania aspect, because you're like, oh no, you can't do this right now. You'll have to come back later once you upgrade more. And then you're like,
then you
okay.
get it and you're like, ooh, I can open all those barriers now.
Yeah. Or you get the what was the gun called? The
scepter.
Yeah, Ager's scepter to hit those invisible those like glowing rocks, I guess you could say. Which was really nice. Or if you somehow ran out
walls.
Yeah, I kept seeing those walls and I was like, that's gotta be something.
I was just like, if I was fighting enemies and I was using it, I'm like, make sure you stop at like 60 ammo so you can blast rocks. Don't forget.
Yeah, exactly. The Shattered Realm, the last thing I want to say was the storytelling. Like, to James' point, wanting to come back every week was not only rewarding from a gear standpoint, but from a storytelling standpoint, because there were so many cool little hidden
side quests
moments. Like true side quests that you could tell you had started, and then you could tell when you had ended them, and they weren't necessarily like it was nice to get an almost Souls-like level of storytelling where you just hear dialogue that you've never heard before, and you now know you're doing something interesting, instead of it being very guided of like point A to point B. I gotta do this. Like, there were little puzzles and stuff, and I specifically remember I really liked the sequence where you find the Scorn Fight Club on the Tangled Shore one, and Mara's like, yeah, they're like beating the crap out of each other and trying to become like smarter and stronger, and you're like, that sounds bad. And then obviously in Witch Queen we start to see the next step of that evolution, which is really nice to get those little teasers for payoff moments later in the big expansion. So if they continue to do stuff like that, I'll be super happy. It was really neat.
Yeah, their progressive storytelling throughout like the seasons has been so good. It's
really nice.
It's like ever since season of the
Chosen, I think.
Yeah, because once you have Presage, it was like everything went like
all the Zavala Crow stuff was really strong too.
Yeah. So and like learning about Keitel, it was like one thing Bife was when I listened to like Bife's videos, he's like, you know, I love orcs, guys, don't get me wrong, but Keitel is a better developed character because you're actually getting the lore as you go through the game, instead of going and like going on the app and reading about the Books of Sorrow and going, orcs is amazing, I read all about it, and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I will say too, you know, when you go through and do the side quests, you have like Marasov talking to you, and then there's also the hidden caches that even get you like, there's at least I guess 9 altogether that you get in those. Each time you get one of those, I think her or Petra talk to you too.
It's really good.
And then after every mission you talk to Savathun, and like, you know, it's interesting that the entire season you already know that the Witch Queen DLC is coming. You know that she's gonna betray us somehow, but even still they were able to weave a story where it was just like, you know, maybe she isn't completely lying to us, and like maybe Queen Mara isn't completely trustful or trustworthy. Like, I thought that was interesting.
And it's like more now getting into the story itself of it. We got a lot of it from like Season of the Splicer, when you hear Osiris and he's like, you know, I underestimated you. I'll never make that mistake again. You're just like, fucking Savathun. And you're just, you already know, like, there's a certain point in the year, because it's all more or less you're feeling Savathun. You're feeling Savathun. You're getting pieces of Savathun. And this is like finally like it feels like this is the official, you got into the restaurant finally, and now you're eating the appetizer and you're like, oh, this is great, guys. Thank you so much. And then the last little, for some reason, part of the appetizer is missing, and you get it like 5 months later, and you go, fuck, where was this piece? Oh, we were developing this, and we just kind of wanted to release it right before Witch Queen came out instead, which was the final chapter.
I mean, it makes sense because it literally is like directly right before Witch Queen, like story wise.
It's the build hype, right?
For me, I think it was that was my only disappointment, was just because there was such a massive gap. Like we had more or less 9 weeks, which was about 3 months. So you have to wait 3 months in between with the story. It felt like you beat Mass Effect 3, And then 3 months later, you get the Mass Effect 3 ending, and you're like, oh, cool. It took me 3 months to get the ending after I beat the game. And that was the feeling I get, because also they introduced a new like activity that you barely have time to even play. At least like with Season of the Splicer, you had time to do the assault on the last city, or like the Elixir border, defending that.
Oh yeah.
Whereas this one was like, hey, check this out. And it's like, oh, cool, it's gone. Fuck, we already knew everything was going to happen, and it happened, but okay. I think that was my biggest
dude. Yeah, that was so cool. It was like the final astral alignment type thing. And like you can see, well, I guess it wasn't. It was like you were going to try to prevent the ritual from being stopped or something.
Yeah,
and you could see
Sivu attacked. Yeah.
And just like the giant worm like spirit thing wrapping itself around the central tower of the Dreaming City was such a cool visual.
Yeah,
it was really interesting. And I think, like I said, that was the only thing I had a gripe with, was just because that time in between just kind of, it didn't really hype it up. I feel like for me, it just kind of dropped the ball in the story itself, because you're like, oh right, these all these Tekkens are just standing here for 3 months doing nothing. And I'm like, oh, okay. And the whole thing is like, you know, when you get to the Witch Queen, you're like, oh, she already has this like 1 week after you free her, she already has all this stuff done. And I'm like, that would have made more sense if there was that 3 month gap or 2 month gap in between. And now you have this, but
you know,
I guess that does make sense.
To me, it almost feels like they probably planned on doing that. Like, listening to you say that makes me think they had probably planned on finishing it with time to spare so that we would be excited. And then that story the Throne World story makes complete sense. And then they decided not to. For some reason, they said, let's keep it till the end so it leads right up into it, instead of doing it when it was probably supposed to come out. This is all speculation, but just hearing you kind of say the timeline of events out in here, to me, I didn't mind it, but now thinking about it, it's like, oh, yeah, we were probably supposed to just wait.
Yeah, especially with all the Vidocs we're getting and the trailers we're getting that are already showing you everything. So you're like, it's like, hey, I watched this show and I'm waiting for the season finale to come out, but for some reason they're already telling us what's happening in the following season. So it makes this obsolete, and you're just kind of like, well, we already know what happens, so what's kind of the point? At this time.
And that, I mean, I guess, not to get too ahead of ourselves onto the Witch Queen stuff, but like that was one of my biggest points of confusion, was like, how did Savathun learn how to do all this stuff like so fast, but still somehow remember, but not really, like all
she's a god, I guess.
Stuff. Yeah,
she's just a god. I mean,
hive speed magic, you know, it's
speed run like, magic.
That revelation, it's like, oh no, she straight up did die, and she did forget everything, and you helped her remember. Is just like, wait, what?
She wasn't an essential subscriber, she was a premium subscriber. That's what she streamed it. But I think overall, like, you know, Season of the Lost was fun. I especially love the Crow, just kind of getting more of him.
Dude, the scene where he like learns who he used to be in an instant, and just like, what did you do? Like, I showed him everything. Like, oh no, that's bad. Oh no, he knows I killed him.
But he's like, you, and he's like, well, I guess, you know, that makes sense that you did it. And I'm like, but you know, at least we're best friends now, right?
I also love that, like, him learning about what he's kind of but not really guilty of leads into Season of the Risen. Where he does something bad.
I mean, you're like, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna go do stuff with Kyle instead. I mean, it can't get worse, right? And then you're like, oh, yeah, you got the Season of Risen, it gets much worse. You make some fun mistakes. But anything else on Season of the Lost before we get to the big queen?
Aeger's scepter. That storyline.
Oh yeah, that was
the cutscenes is one of the best things that they've ever made in Destiny. The gun is insanely cool and very strong. And the music and just the presentation, like, to me, that was the final bookend I needed personally to understand where Mara's coming from, and their relationship between Destiny 1 and 2. Because, like, you really don't. Taken King happens. She is supposedly dead. He gets mad, and that's all you know that happens. And now seeing this, you finally get to fill in some of those blanks. you get a really cool weapon with it and a really cool ship, and it was just like overall a great experience. So props to them. More of this, please, during the seasons is what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, especially all the lore revolving around like when she's on the ship, when they're still in the ship.
Yeah,
I loved learning about the Awoken history.
Yeah,
even as Aldrin, cool. He like is telling all the kids the story of the birds and stuff like that. And what was the queen's bird name? It was Agar and
Rhaega, I think.
Rhaega. Okay, yeah, because that was a fun like. I like that they have two types of cutscenes now. They have like the cinematic, and then they have like kind of the storied folklore cutscenes.
I really like the art style for that.
Yeah, it's like ink, and it's really nice.
It's their mid-season cutscene. Yeah,
I mean, my favorite rendition of that was when you get like Mithrax's version of Saint 14's history. And just like the when they splash like the skull face over his helmet, and it's just like, no, he to the Elixni, he's the boogeyman.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's such a cool story.
Super Baba Yaga.
And we had another one this current season of like a little bit of Saladin's history, and like dude, every time they tell a story with one of those like art scenes, it's just such a cool tell.
Zavala's assassination, they all just are well done.
Yeah,
all good. Cool,
very much so. Yeah. And I will say, you do feel for Ultron, like he's a very tragic character, and he just kind of, when he kills Cade, it's literally under the, I guess you could say, the influence, like heavy influence.
Yeah,
he literally was like, I will do anything it takes to bring my sister back.
Yeah,
that's how dedicated I am to her.
Yeah. So you feel more forgiving to even that character at that point.
And then the dynamic between Mara and Savathun the entire season of like, Savathun knows Mara's trying to kill her, and and Mara's not really like secretive about it either, because she's like, yo, you're the reason why my brother died.
Yeah,
like you fed him lies and now he's dead, so I'm going to kill you.
And now you're influencing the new version of my brother, even like we know way back when, because you hear him whistling because he's been hanging out around with Osiris the time.
Cool little
Osiris
like
Osiris was his mentor. Like it wasn't even like
it's like you never knew the true Osiris. It was Savathun the whole time, and he does not take that well.
And well, to him that's almost like oh wait, well, if Savathun was the person who was my mentor, I had a great time with that version of Osiris. Maybe I'll continue to have a great time. Like that the temptation is truly there.
Crow was horribly abused when he was first risen, because everyone knew who he was, but he didn't, and he's just like, I don't understand why no one likes me. Like I didn't do anything to any of these people. And Savathun shows up as Osiris, and it's like, hey, you do have worth, you are important. And it's just like that. And then like to find out, like, was that all a lie? Like was she saying that just to mess with me, or was she says she's being truthful, she says she never lied to me, but do you trust the hive god of trickery?
No, definitely not. So which queen? Getting into that, we have, I guess, starting off, of course, the campaign story, or the campaign and the story, which I will say, starting off with the campaign, holy shit, these are like just, hey, each mission is a dungeon.
It's so well done.
It's so long. Each one takes so much time, and you think like, normally you go through Forsaken, which was not even, some of them weren't even like actual campaign missions. It was just, here's adventure for you. Click on adventure and heroic adventure.
Go and kill a few of the barons.
3 minutes, sometimes.
And then Shadowkeep was weird because it was also like,
the whole DLC was 3 minutes long. So
and then you have to like, there was an actual in-campaign grind to get the armor to proceed through the campaign.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. And then Beyond Light was good, but just short. You could feel the changes happening, but this is
Aramis is just kind of like a meh villain.
It's one of those things where each expansion has come out and you go, it was great. It was no Taken King, but it was a good time.
And it's good, kind of short.
The first time where it surpasses Taken King. It is now the best campaign story, the best expansion,
at least the way it's told, for me, for sure.
There's so much to do, and the fact that they give you even like 2 options in the very beginning, they're like, do you want to play regular, go through this maybe with your friends?
Legendary is super fun.
Do you want to do legendary? Do you want to get a massive gear boost with your first character, if you're doing it with your first character? And did we mention the more people you play with, the harder it's going to be, and we're going to stack up.
2 is like pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 was
I
rough.
remember going through it and I was playing it on normal. I'm like, I'll do legendary after. And my claymates were like, they weren't shaming me, but they were just like, you don't want to do it on normal. And I'm like, why is that? And it's like, you're just going to play it through it twice. You don't need to, because you're going to play with other characters anyway. Why would you want to do that multiple times? Just do it on legendary because you're going to get that boost and it's going to feel more alive. I guess you could say you're going to be fighting for your life and you're going to feel it more, especially because of like kind of how crazy it gets with Savathun. And plus it really puts to the test that feeling of, oh, I'm going up against Hive Guardians or like the Lucent Brood and stuff.
Right.
So you're going in there, and I solo ran legendary on my hunter, and using all the Void 2.0 stuff, I'm just like smoke bombing, using 2 Men of Hunger to get melee kills to heal myself, because then I have the glaive. Even if it was on legendary, I just jump into a pile of enemies just with the glaive, didn't even shoot it, and I just start like just beating people. And I'm like, you can keep shooting me, but I'm just gonna keep building up my health each time I kill one of you. The length of the missions though were really good.
Yeah,
like I couldn't believe that I'd be going through it, and I'm like, is this a different mission? It's like, no, this is the same one. This is the second part. There's like 3 parts to this, and I'm like, oh my god, this is really long. I don't know if I have time like to do as much as I thought I would tonight, where I spent multiple nights just trying to do the campaign just because I thought I didn't know
it was not. Yeah, you couldn't speed run that. Like,
yeah, I underestimated it. I just assumed it would be like the other campaigns, and I'm like, oh my god, this is not even close to what I'm used to. Not to mention, like, they already get you sidetracked because Finch is like, oh hey, if you do this thing for me while you're out here, I'm like, oh well, let me just help you out over here and stuff. But how did you guys feel just about the campaign itself? Not the story, but just like going through these levels and playing these types?
I thought they were like a fun real quick, I just thought they were like really fun, tight experiences. Like, I don't think there was a single mission where I was like, that was boring, I could have done without it. Like, after every one I was like, damn, that was a good mission.
Absolutely. I did the bad thing where I played it on normal first and then immediately played it on legendary, and I'm glad I did, because the whole time I was playing on normal, I could really focus on the storytelling. But then as I was moving through the environments, I was thinking to myself, okay, make a mental note of where I should be when, because this is going to be so much worse the next time I do it. And it really helped me kind of break down the newer design philosophy of Bungie as a whole. Because before, it really felt like every time they made a mission, it was still an instance area of the open world in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So it couldn't be like focused, whereas every single story mission in Witch Queen feels focused.
Felt like a good Halo level.
Right. Like the cover was perfectly placed to give you nice angles on enemies, and there was like height variety, and there was like objectives that would force you to leave your little rat hole if you found one.
Yeah, we can transport payloads now.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was a bunch of really nice little moments where the objectives are pretty much the same as we've been doing in a campaign in Destiny, but the visuals behind it, or the method behind it, was much more unique. And getting to feel that shift immediately after beating it the first time was like a really cool, like, oh, you guys mean business. Like, this isn't, you're not messing around and just upping the power level of the enemies.
Yeah.
You've really thought this through on composition of enemies that are coming in, where they're coming in, how many are coming in, what I get to fight them, because you're getting like less ammo, but some other ammo to, so it was a really nice balance to see that going through. And then also, I feel like the legendary campaign has set a new standard for veterans, because it really rewarded you if you had a build already. And that was the cool thing, was I know people who play legendary, they haven't played since Forsaken, they go into legendary and they're like, I can't beat this. I'm like, that's because the builds are really where it's at. It isn't the power level anymore. Is your build able to keep up with the composition of enemy types? And it was really cool.
Yeah,
I think I was running Omnioculus for a while, and then I switched to like Mobius Quiver, or the Orpheus Rig, because I'm like, actually, this is going to be a lot more useful, because I'm just tethering now, and I have enough, at least like I can vanish easier, because the way now that Void 2.0 worked, I was like, I can switch up, make it so I can do the dodge and the smoke grenade, to keep myself like going, because I have that more customization. Omninoculus is no longer as necessary as it would have been like I used to run in Grandmaster Nightfalls, which is really nice.
Dude, disruption grenades for the Titan are so useful now.
They're very strong.
Yeah. I loved the introduction of like the Hive Guardians as bosses. Like they were so fun to fight.
What would you guys say was, I guess, like your favorite mission, and what would you find as in Legendary your most difficult mission or missions? For me personally, I can run first for that. The ones I had the most trouble on were probably the Scorn centric missions, because like you'd have like that dude that was similar to the Presage boss. I forget, it was the Locust of Communion, I think. And I remember it was like the one where you have the 3 symbols and you have to like run through, kill the captain.
That mission is tough and you can't see anything.
Yeah.
And he one-shots you. Yes.
Yeah, you just hear like, oh, and you're like, what? Yeah. And he's just like, I came in here. You didn't know I could do that, could you? And you're like, I didn't know you could do. Get the fuck away from me.
His fire will linger for so long. You have to be like, where am I when he attacks? Because if I'm in the wrong place, I've just destroyed my entire escape avenue because it's just covered in fire, basically. Yeah, that was a really tough boss.
Weren't each captain a different energy shield
element type? Yes, it was.
And yeah, so I'm like there just trying to figure it out, and I'm like, everyone was like, do you want to have a energy weapon that is a really good like special ammo, or is it better just to run 3 different energy primaries so you could just take out the shields more than anything?
That's why I was using Hammer Titan. I was just throwing those hammers constantly because that was literally just cracked any shield immediately, and it made it so much easier. But it was tough. Yeah.
I think that, and then of course the final actual fight with Savathun. At least as running through as my hunter the first time, I'm not really focused on weapon choices. I straight up I played extra hard mode for myself because I wasn't really infusing anything. I was, besides the
just throwing on blues.
Rig. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, whatever rocket launcher, whatever special and stuff. And I'm like, I'm probably shooting myself in the foot here. And it was horrifying because I'm like killing myself to stay alive, kill these wizards and stuff, and then I get to Savathun and she's like, oh, here's like 3 supers at once, and I'm like, I'm just fucking trying
the arc super was so oh my god,
because it's just like it's radius, and I'm just like trying to stay out of it while supering her with my Mobius quiver, and also trying to shoot rockets, doing whatever I can. And I can't remember how many times, I think I spent 2 hours in that fight, just the first time with my hunter. And then I went with my warlock and I went full build. I'm like, okay, blind grenades, Gallahorn, and like I forget what the other thing I used was, and I went through so much easier.
Yeah, it's 15 minutes if you got a good build. Yeah,
and was getting through the entire campaign so much quicker. But the fact that I was also like a warlock too made it faster because I'm like, oh, healing rift, I forgot I have these. I'm just gonna keep Nova bombing everything. Also, like, it was really something. But
yeah, I don't really remember having too much trouble playing through the legendary campaign with like my brother Chris, but definitely I remember having some difficulty with that last fight, the Savathun. Like, and not even necessarily against Savathun herself, just like for whatever reason, the Hive Night Guardian would just throw a disruption grenade and it was like a one shot for us every time. And so we would be like doing fine, trying to focus on the wizard guardian and like, you know, almost have them. Then all of a sudden one of us is dead because we saw it, like a grenade showed up out of nowhere. We didn't hear it bounce or anything. So that caused like quite a few wipes. But that, like, other than that, like I can't remember any of the missions that I really was like, you know, banging my head against or whatever. Like usually we could get through it in like 1 or 2 tries.
Or I was like, oh, do you want me to join you guys for a little bit?
Dude, yeah. Like, well, one, it's cool that crossplay works so well, but at the same time, like, yeah, that was a noticeable jump in difficulty.
It made it harder. The final boss
so much harder
for us. I think we had to give up because we just started it too late.
I remember hearing you guys play. I think I was in the server with you guys.
It took me 20 minutes on my own, but with 3 people, we literally had to give up because it was too late at night. Like I would have kept hitting my head against the wall if it hadn't been so late. But it was that the minions, like the normal hive that are just running around in that final arena with Savathun, will just one-shot you if you try to run away. Like, and you can't heal because you're getting hit by little guys. And then it wasn't until too late that we realized the secret technique, which was to only kill 2 of the wizards to get the buff and then leave the 3rd one up, so you just have the buff infinitely instead of only getting 30 seconds of the buff and then having to do the 3 wizards again. So we would have beaten it, I think, once we figured that out, but then it was like 3 a.m. and I'm like, I gotta go.
I think we tried to do that, but it was like still taking too long to deal like enough damage. So we were like, no, let's just try to do it the right way. And like it does give you like a significant damage boost, but
it does,
having to deal with like another set of wizards though was like frustrating.
But good level design. The fact that we're here talking about these levels and we know like what happened and we can share stories means they've done it. Like they've upped it to the next level. Like
we never
really
did this
nice.
for Beyond Light.
No, never. No. Yeah.
And one funny thing too is like when I think as my hunter, when I'd run in there and I'm like, all right, I got it, time limit's going in, I just rush in and I see the purple bubble moving away and I'm like, you get the fuck back here, like come on. And I get in there and like I see the arc lightning coming in, I go to dodge it, I get to the ground, all of a sudden my radar goes full red, all these thralls come at me, but it's still legendary. So I'm like, what the fuck? My timer's going down, I kill them and I look and it's like 4 seconds left and I'm like, well, I guess I'm doing another run just to see if I can hit her once. So it was just insane. The story itself going through this campaign was insane also. It's really the amount of just talking to her and also actually real fast, like the amount of they change up a lot because you're fighting Hive and then you're fighting the Scorn and then you go to Europa for a second and you fight the Cabal. So they make a lot more there too, where you do have a lot of variety in terms of the levels. It's not just like, oh, here's the same thing, or like here's different Baron from the Scorn. This one is Bomb Baron, this one is Sniper Baron, etc. This is like, oh, we're just getting complete.
I do love like, the first mission was like, well, one, it was kind of cool to walk around the surface of Mars for like a second, although that got my hopes up that I was like, oh my god, did they bring back Mars as like a patrol area too?
No,
unfortunately no.
I thought they would too,
like Venus.
They brought back but like working your way out to the Cabal cannon to like shoot yourself at this throne world is so cool.
You are the projectile. What are you doing, Chief? I'm finishing this fight.
That level in the apothecary, is that how you say that word? I always get that word.
Apothecary.
Yeah, apothecary. Thank you. Those 2 levels stood out to me a lot. The first one, that beautiful shift of going from the orange Mars that we know and love, and then going to the throne world, which is all these like sickly green, pinks, and purples. Like it's beautiful, but all these like off colors that you're like, this is like gross at the same time. Was just such a nice shift in tone. And then the music, like for me, the music really, as kind of usual, but I think even more so, elevated this entire campaign to this next level of, it was always beautiful but somehow always haunting. And then when they put the nice like bombastic Guardian triumphant themes in there finally, it was just like, oh, like sweet release. Like every time, like since Shadowkeep, they've been putting in these moments where it's like, no, Guardians are like, we're taking the fight to the darkness. We're not just repelling it. We're not just like scared in our little city. We're gonna kill it as much as we think we can, right? And those moments always stand out, and they're really, really great. So there was one towards the end where it's like very difficult mission where you're like jumping through the portals to go to the different levels and layers, and the music that whole
was
time
in the final. That was like the first part of the final mission.
It just keeps you going, and it's really good.
Go through the wrong portal. She's like, ha ha, dumbass. Like, fuck you.
One of my favorite moments of the campaign was like you're uncovering these secrets of like, how did Savathun steal the light, and you find out she didn't. She kind of just like convinced some ghosts to, raise her hive, and turns out the Traveler isn't as choosy as we thought he was, and like just literally whoever will defend him or it's good with, and like and the revelation that the traveler, like the revelation you finally find with like the familiar, the worm familiar from like way back at Fundament. First off, to actually find that thing was interesting, and then to like find out that the witness like lied to Savathun, and like the Hive are the way they are now, and there's like whole alien civilizations gone because the darkness, or not in the darkness, the witness lied to Savathun, and she never knew. And you
big lie.
like, and you thrust that truth upon her, and she's like, "What? You think you know me? You think you know more?" And it's just like you rattle Savathun, and it's just such a cool moment.
If anything, it proves her point, which I don't know if we were going to get to this, but like basically her goal, right, was to hide the traveler from the witness.
Yeah.
And the fact that we stopped her from doing it is a very interesting, turn of events, because it's like, yay, we're triumphant. And then Ikora's like, I don't feel like we really accomplished
we can
much
all
here.
Die together now.
Yeah, right.
It's just like during the original collapse where the traveler's like, well, guys, I've done my duty, and I'm gonna do what I did to every other civilization.
I'm gonna
good luck in
out.
hell. And Rasputin's like, no, you stay.
That was such a cool.
That's such a cool understand it. Yeah.
Rasputin did us a solid. You gotta always.
That's such a cool start to the last mission, though. You look up and the traveler's like already there, and you're just like, oh no, we're too late.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm honestly team Savathun at this point. I'm like, let her res, because she's going to.
Yeah, her ghost got away, so she could come back.
They're just catalog. You're just kind of like waiting for all these expansion bosses. You're like, Aramis will become unfrozen. Eventually, Savathun's ghost will do her.
They'll all become new disciples,
or they'll all become my servant or my gun.
It's like this is some sort of Suicide Squad.
That was like the funniest. That was like one of the funniest post-campaign things, and you're like working with Savathun's worm, and you trick it and turn it into a gun, and it's just like
so funny.
He was just like, what is this? What have you done?
Yeah. It was more like, what have you? Oh, no.
Queen.
That mission was awesome for two reasons. Wormy, incredible best new character of all time, and the fact that Mara has a Batman Justice League backup protocol.
She has her tower of Babel.
She has a tower where she's like, I know how to kill all of you if I need to, and you're like, wait a second, like that. That's kind of foreshadowing in some ways, I feel like.
Just like, I know about the dark future. I don't want that to happen here.
Eris is like, I get it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I think she of all people would understand too. Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Because literally, dude, in the dark future, Eris is like worse than Savathun. She's like the biggest bad guy.
Yeah. But we'll definitely get to that stuff. So I think that's a couple things we'll talk more about Wormy and all that fun stuff. But how did you feel with, I guess, the revelation that with the whole thing of like Season of the Lost, we get all of this lore, all of this stuff going, hey, Savathun's been asking about these ghosts, collecting dead ghosts, learning about everything from Osiris, getting stuff kind of from Mara, and just basically utilizing the shit out of Ikora and the access she's giving Osiris, more or less. And it's giving you all this stuff going. It's making you think everything makes perfect sense. The Witch Queen is the Lucent Brood. This is exactly how it happens. And then the fact that it is like, oh no, actually, like she straight up she breaks out of the crystal, gets to the city, and goes, oh yeah, hey, I finally found you again. I'm dead. And
then hello again, old friend.
Yeah, and then Traveler's like, here you go, and the ghost somehow already was wardrobe change to Starfish.
Yeah. I have a feeling she just like made friends with Imaru and was just like, hey,
right.
Yeah.
I feel like I might die soon. You might be cool with trying to raise me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so then we get that, and it's just like, oh, well, one, is the whole, now this is how Hive Guardians came in, followed by, oh, did we mention that the Hive were alive too that whole time? and they really didn't need to do this whole thing, and they could have been, which is interesting too, just looking at their, the way, like, I guess, like, they portray different species. You get a feeling of that species more or less being evil for a while. Like, you feel like the Cabal are evil, you feel like the Hive
are literally like skeleton people.
Yeah. So then it's like, oh, they were almost chosen by the Traveler. You're like, that's so interesting. And the fact that it makes sense too, I guess, like with the Leviathan living down there and stuff. And he's actually, even though he sounds like a creepy creature, he's actually like more or less a creature of the light, kind of, compared to, like, you have all the fucking worm gods below him, like, just, and he's kind of like guarding them and whatnot. I did also like the whole, it brings in more of the, I guess, relationship between Ikora and Zavala at a certain point.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I can't believe you fucking did this shit. And she's like, I did what I needed to do. And there's so much doubt, especially like post, considering they were all tricked, especially Ikora, when she let Savathun in everywhere. And there's so much question. And like, it brings back the old Bungie advertisements where it's like, these people can even trust them, who trust no one, like, who it's the truth. Right. How far does, like, it feels like a whole inside job and all this stuff. How far in does it go? Who's in it and whatnot? And the whole thing is, like, among everything else, is everything is meant to build distrust in this whole campaign. It's kind of like truth to power lore, where you're like, well, what's true and what isn't? And you do feel like they're really doing a good job giving Savathun's deception in this whole story. Even when she's not even talking to you, you're questioning things because you don't really know what's true and what isn't, and you're still trying to figure it out. And then you get the cutscenes that you get that reveal everything. You're just kind of like, now I just have more questions. Like, that didn't answer that much for me.
I would say we got some massive revelations. Like,
very much so.
Especially
I think in the raid stuff.
Right. I feel like we finally got our first concrete answer that the darkness is just another entity. Well, no, that's the thing, is the witness is a race, right? And the darkness is not inherent to,
it's like a force,
the witness. And this, speaking of truth to power, in the Garden and the Winnower, like, reading that story, now that we know everything that we do from Witch Queen, you really start to see the just kind of neutral elements of both things. The fact that the Traveler resurrected Savathun, the fact that the darkness has given us stasis and let us fight things like the Witness and its followers, and that the Witness is obviously more of a deceiver than even Savathun is. Like, that starts to get really, I think the next couple of months, people are going to start going back and rereading a lot of things, going to Ishtar Collective and start seeing it with a new light, right? And we still don't fully understand the ramifications of all the stuff that were shown to us. So I like that element of, hey, we planned this all along. Now we're giving you the ties and the trail to follow, right? Which is to your point, Camera. So yeah,
definitely. And
the investigation aspect of this DLC was super fun too.
Yeah, it's
cool.
Yeah,
definitely. And then the Throne World as a setting,
I liked that it's like similar to Oryx's Throne Worlds, but at the same time it like looked more refined. Like, it was a lot of it was like a nice, like, pristine garden almost.
Yeah,
it was interesting.
Oryx is so busy taking, he's not giving enough time doing decorating.
And then there's just like a darkness pyramid in the swamp.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's the Throne World is this. Once you realize that all of the kind of like green environment that you're walking on when it comes to like the castle itself is glass, that really like changes.
Is that what it's supposed to be?
That's what I think so. Or like mica, which is like a type of mineral, because when you shoot it, it makes like a shattering, like shimmering sound.
Okay.
It doesn't make a rock sound or like a marble sound. It really feels like it's all made of glass. And that, plus the fact that, Savathun's like visage is in the sky at times in the story, really, I couldn't help but think, like, how cool would it be to see like a tilt shift version where the camera's just watching on little guardians running around on it, like what she's seeing, like this, like, it's like a little, model. If you go to Disney, they have these artisans who make like the castle out of glass that you can go buy for like $2 million for no reason.
Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah, it's you go to downtown
Parents
Disney.
dread going in there with their kids.
Exactly.
Like,
I dread
touch
going
anything.
in there because after Epcot, you don't want to go anywhere near glass.
We won't have a house if you break anything in here.
Exactly. You'll live here for the rest of your life cleaning it up. But yeah, so it kind of reminded me of that, of going to those exhibits and seeing these like little glass castles. And it's like I'm running around like a giant glass castle. And then I love that her red flowers are like a fungus, like a disease, because when you see in the Season of the Risen, just to not to go too deep into it, when her forces land on Earth and other planets, that it spreads that flower, these beautiful Venetian
it's like terraforming.
There's like a part of the old Russia is like turning into a fortress.
Exactly. And it's like, oh, normally stuff like Siva just kind of makes it gross and weird, but her disease turns it into Venetian hedges, like, and beautiful gardens. Like, that's such a cool concept that like it's gross but beautiful at the same time. So the Throne World is just like, I want to see a new season, which we'll probably get the same way we did for Season of the Lost, of finding new areas of the Throne World, because it's so big. Like, you can do so much stuff with it.
Yeah,
so.
There's stuff I still haven't even done. Like,
right.
I haven't done a lot. I haven't closed any fissures. There's like different tiers of deep sight. Mm-hmm. There's moths to collect, kind of like you did with the penguins and other stuff like that. And
that's the thing. I love the exploration stuff.
There's so much to do. And I think there's like ones where you kill this whole set of like enemies to get these. I forget what the items are called.
Yes.
I've only done it once because I haven't focused on it, because I've just been doing weekly. I do weekly stuff, and I don't have enough time to do all of it. So I'm
you gotta do these missions because you can only do the percentage like 5% every week.
I gotta.
And it's like a weird secret thing that nobody like knows.
I'm just like, my mind has just been, I need to gild all my seals again. It's grinding strikes in Gambit and Crucible.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like everything in there is so interesting, and you're like, I'm going through the castle, I'm going through the swamp, I'm going through this other, I guess, foresty area and stuff, and each one is like just different in terms of layout. And it's interesting, just like there's sometimes Hive and Scorn just fighting, and depending on their territory, it just has a different feel, because they talk about how going into the other areas, they're like, yeah, this is where Savathun is focused, like, building the light and stuff. And here is where she's just focused on locking away the darkness that was there originally, because the whole thing was the Throne World used to be pure darkness until she brought the light into it. And there are things like the pyramid ship that have been trapped there, and other areas where she doesn't even access it. Like, her people don't go there at all, and it's just filled with Scorn, or potentially, I guess, more or less the original version of her Hive that never were altered by the light or changed with what she did. She just kind of left them there. So that whole aspect was, I don't know, it just felt interesting, because it brings into this thing where I guess you could call it like, I guess, World of Warcraft level of world building, where, before, when we first got everything, it was more or less, here's Hive, Vex, Cabal, Fallen, kill all of them, more or less the same. You get certain versions, like here's House of Winter, House of Devils, here's Sand Eaters for Cabal, and all this other stuff. But these different factions are all still more or less completely allied with each other, and there's nothing different. They're never at odds with each other. And now we're getting like, we have House of Light, we have Keitel's Cabal, then they're nice and blue. And there's still like Callus's people, and maybe some Red Legion remnant, and there's still House of Dusk and House of Salvation and stuff. I think it was House of Salvation, right?
Yeah.
So now there's Dark Hive that are Shiva Wrath, and there's Light Hive that are Savathun, and then there's potentially old Dark Hive from Savathun. And just seeing these different factions now is just so interesting, that we're finally at this level of like, well, here's our good Cabal, and then there's the bad Cabal. Here's our good Fallen, there's the bad Fallen. And now teasing potentially at a certain point in the future, because it's like, it's kind of like that Dragon Ball feeling of they were our enemies, now they're our friends in a later season. And you kind of are getting that hint of, yeah, Savathun has been the main villain, but now that she's seen the truth, now that you've kind of gotten your revenge for literally everything, more or less, like, will she be an uneasy, like, will she be our Frieza, where, hey, we need you to fight in this tournament with us, but also we know you have your own agenda and you could betray us at any moment. That type of thing, where it's going to be super, you can imagine, like, it's funny too, like, it's very much a very we've gotten very matriarch like leadership society
focus
here.
All three main,
like all the different Keitel, Mara, Ikora, and now Savathun, having them all come together potentially, and at least, you know, Mithrax is Mithrax and stuff, but like you do see like all this interesting versions of just like different societies and stuff, and I'm very curious to see what it's going to come together with by the end of it.
I definitely see Savathun, her moment of coming back could be very brief, but I can definitely see it being a moment where she goes, listen, you helped me see some things about my past that I never knew. So as a final big FU to the people who lied to me originally, I'll do something that helps you out big time. Yeah. Like just as like to get at, you know, it's like the good version of what they try to do in Rise of Skywalker. Sorry, Cremon. But yeah, anyways, that's all I need. I know I had to hurt you this way. That's all we need. We just need a moment where she shows up briefly and goes, I'm gonna go and do my own thing. I can come back later. But before I do, here's something that'll really, really mess with the darkness and the witness in a way that they weren't expecting, that only I can provide to you. And then we get it, and it's like, thanks. I hope you don't try to, you know, it's like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it would be a really fun moment if it did, you know, because I think in some ways we helped her more than we hurt her. You know?
She go, it's like, now it's almost like you killed her, but it's like a crucible match where it's like, oh, I'll come back right after. It's fine.
Right.
Just
exactly.
It's not like we're standing guard over her corpse and tomorrow can't get over there. It's just like, no matter. Right. It's like just the way the strike works with, what's his face? Ally Cool, the light blade now.
That's such a cool
it's just a repeatable strike because he could just keep coming back because his coast gets away every time. And so it's just perpetual in that sense. Almost like the ribbon curse, more or less, for the raid. So the third one was awesome. And then getting into the Parasite mission with Wormy. And I will say too, Andreas, we've had plenty of fun banter in your Discord server of just talking about Wormy and just worms in general, whispers and Parasite and stuff, and just the voices of just like
3 hours of Wormy voice.
It's just so good. The interesting thing with this exotic mission, which I think is, or exotic quest line, which I think is the best exotic quest line we've ever gotten. Not like, you know, it's not like
full quest line. Yes, I agree.
Full quest line. It's not a mission that's just replayable and stuff. The other of which probably was the I want to say the stasis grenade launcher, purely just for the fun of the banter, because you have your ghost is just imitating the drifter the whole time, and you're just, it's more of like just enjoyable for dialogue than anything. This one is like that, but it's not humor dialogue, except when you just listen to Wormy talk in general. But it's the lore and just delving into the actual personality, confidence, distrust, every aspect of Marisov, of just learning about her as a person. Because, you know, from Taken King to Season of the Lost, she is all-powerful queen that can blow up ships and create her own throne world, and entomb other like hive gods and shit. Like, she is all powerful. And in this, you get an unsure, like, I'm kind of winging it right now, Guardian, like more or less, you're gonna have to trust me. Well, do you trust us? No.
No, the answer is no. No, that mission, one of the things I really like that they've started doing since Beyond Light is making us go to lost sectors and then giving us like a little bit extra at the end. Like, that's a really smart idea of, hey, we have a door here. You'll notice the door, but it could be anything, and then you get to actually go in a room or you get to see something new, and it kind of pays off. Now, whenever you go through that lost sector, you're always going to think of that moment. Yeah. So it adds this little extra value to this repeatable zone that
instead
can
of
get
unnamed
tiring.
place you run in and go, I hope I got my exotic piece this time.
Exactly. the amount of things that you get in the lore wise you get in the lost sectors now is really nice, and this is one of the prime examples of that happening. And yeah, Wormy's dialogue was great, and anytime they actually pull the character into the world with you, it's just such a nice moment, and we're getting more and more and more of it. So it's really cool to have Mara there with the Wormy doing the whole ritual incantation. You're just like shooting everything and barely holding on, because there's a lot of enemies at the end there. It was really fun. Yeah, so that was good. I really liked it.
Plus, this goes in line with the campaign itself, where, you know, the campaign, you're unsure of things, and they do full 180s on you, where they do like, you know, the big reveals and stuff, and it takes everything you thought and just throws it in the garbage, and you're just like, I can't fucking believe what they just told me. And it takes you away from what you expect is going to happen. Just like in this one, they keep teasing. Mara's like, I'm going to take the worm.
I believed it.
Yeah, I believed it, and I'm just like, I really hope she does it. Like, I can't believe she's gonna do this. Like,
literally the whole time I was just like, what would that even do?
I was thinking seasons ahead. I'm like, fuck, we're gonna have to. She's gonna do like a weird thing, and she's gonna become a dark god, and maybe she's the real dark future thing, and it's not Eris now, and it's gonna be her and all this other shit. And then she just goes, hey, remember when you made Zola fucking gun? One of the big five hive gods is now just a sniper rifle for you, and he still gets his satisfaction, just in a different way, but he gets his like sword logic tributes. And in this one, it's the same thing, where you're like, oh my god, the queen's gonna do it, and she's like, psych, hey, you're a grenade launcher now. And Wormy's like, oh no, fire me.
I said I'd get you a vessel, I didn't say it'd be me.
Deception.
And he's like literally like, I'm never gonna speak again, and then he like talks the next
2 seconds later.
Yeah. So I'm like, more, please are you teasing that we get more of this character? Because I need a whole mission where I'm using the gun and I'm listening to him talk to me, and he's like mad that I'm killing stuff with him. And then also, let's not forget the effect of the weapon itself is so hive.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you have to hurt yourself to get buffed, like the whole, like you're it's almost like a tribute, right? Your tribute of pain is giving you something in return. Like it's so perfectly hive that it's like, the more exotic weapons start to kind of delve into the personalities and cultures of the races, it's just, keep doing that, guys. It's very nice.
Love that if you actually look at the projectile it fires, it's an actual tiny worm.
Yeah, and it's like wriggling. It's like, and it's heavy too. Like it has a really deep arc, so you have to like aim it really high, and it's screaming the whole time. It's so good.
It's so fucking good. I love that. I mean, when you look at a definition, if you looked up sword logic in a dictionary, and it just goes, example of use, the guardian equipped parasite. And then that's like, you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, now that works. Now, before it was just something hive related, or at least like it's focused on the hive. Now you get to just continue it more so, and it's so funny because I just wish now if there's cutscenes, I'm like, can I just bring Parasite with me?
And he talks.
He just talks in the cutscene or something. That'd be fantastic. I mean, like he does. I'll say really fast without really getting into it yet, but he talks during Wellspring. He talks in Preservation. If you bring him there, that if you don't bring him, you won't get that dialogue.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so he does have dialogue in certain places, which makes me think like, I'm sure certain people found it and it's like probably available on YouTube, but maybe there's certain areas that if you do bring Parasite, unlocks other dialogue entries and more chances to hear Wormy's sweet voice.
What if you take him through the campaign?
Oh god, like, how is this possible?
How am I here?
I don't understand. Deception queen killing me.
7th, take me back.
More, feed more. So fucking good. Like, yeah, it was just such a fun. Going through the campaign was more fun than the reward was, more for me personally, just because I just enjoyed the dialogue. I like the gun. just for the chance to hear him talk more than the effect of what it does. Though it does work in certain raids and stuff, depending on what you're doing.
Right.
And then you go, okay, maybe I should just switch to Gallahorn for certain.
Right.
I was wrong. Don't use this for this right now. But yeah, definitely. And then the Vox Obscura quest. So this was just in line with the other ones like Presage, Whisper of the Worm, and 0 Hour and whatnot. This one is interesting though, because I want to say this is the shortest of the exotic missions, but it's because it's the most time sensitive exotic mission, because there's an actual time, there's like 2 timers in this fucking mission, and I've only done it once. But
you're the only one who's beaten it.
Okay, so do you guys care how much I say?
No, not really.
Okay,
Go for
so you get the interesting tease of Kettle saying like, hey, a bunch of my people are kind of committing treason and attempting to unlock the darkness for themselves. They're trying to see like what it can do for them, considering like what it did for the Fallen and for what it did for you guys and like the Hive and whatnot. And your mission is to go into a base that they have set up on Mars. Now they've established a base, and take them out and find out who their leader is. And it's like very time sensitive. You're going through it, and it's utilizing the Cabal, like I forget what they're like the brute chopper type.
Yeah, little cruise. Yeah.
So you're going through that. You're using that, but because it's a fucking high tier mission, those things are getting blasted to shit, and you're just like, it's so big, I'm a fucking massive target. Oh shit, their fucking threshers are up there, fuck. And eventually though, you unlock Drakes, which is really helpful. And you're going through, it does a really fun thing where as you're going through fighting everything, they make scions like high tier enemies that are gold bars or yellow bars, and they're even them versus a tank is actually threatening. And everything feels threatening, even in a Drake. You're still able to kill everything, but there's also so many enemies and they're so strong that you still have to strategize when you're going through the areas. And there's even there's a point with towers that are extra shielded, so you have to destroy these shield generators.
That's as far as I got.
And then shoot in and destroy them. And it's still on a timer. It's one of those things where when you go through the dungeon for Grasp of Avarice, the Sparrow run, the timer is reset each time you go through. And you're given, there's certain like activities and all the different things in Destiny that always add time for you when there's time sensitive things. This is the one thing where nothing gets added. It's like if you get through the area, cool, now new timer is here and you have to go through this area now. It's only area locked, but otherwise like everything you're doing, you have to do it as quickly as possible or else you're pretty much screwed.
0 Hour was that same way, I think.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, where you got 20 minutes. Like it was really easy to speed run everything until the platforming, and then that's where a lot of people I know got tripped up. But I didn't. Yeah, so that one was. It's kind of like a loop back to that format, basically.
Yeah, and going through the next area, it's more or less like inside you're finding all these Cabal, and there's a Scion in charge that you have to kill. And there's like certain points where the shields come up again in there too. You have to take those out, and there's a lot of enemies that appear, so you're having to hop around, and it's not really as big of a space as you want it to be. So you're pretty much having to keep maneuvering to stay alive and also take out enemies and everything else. But it's very much doable once you get your handle of it. I can imagine probably for the I'm sure there's triumphs to solo this stuff, and I'm just like, nice, count me out, but I'm sure you guys will have a great time with it. I don't have time for this shit. I just like doing it, and it seems like there's gonna be more lore. And by the end of it, Kettle's talking to you through the whole thing. I think maybe Zavala was too. Kettle. Okay,
they both talk to you. Yeah.
At the end, you find out like, hey, the Scion was in charge, but he wasn't like really. He was just kind of. They were funded by someone, and when you find out, you open a room, and it's like a Leviathan chest room, basically. And you find out they were funded by Callus, and you're like, oh, this is very interesting. And
he's just a goop now.
he's funding them to do any communion form with the darkness, or at least like to check out the darkness, and you're like, okay, there's a chance, like what I'm imagining, what this makes me think of, even though the whole thing about the potential disciples for the pyramid ships is, it seems like it's the last of a species that gets to become a disciple.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I feel like there's exceptions. I mean, you could tell, like, I feel like Eris is like, if there was a human disciple, it would be Eris Morn. Yeah. If there was an Awoken, it would be Mara, etc. I think she was actually approached to be a disciple. But it makes you think, is the Leviathan going to become some form of hybrid pyramid ship of some sort? Will Callus be the disciple of that there then said ship? Will there be basically darkness cabal or some warped version of them?
And yeah, I think that's basically a guaranteed thing at this point, because all they've been doing with his character is building up this story that all he wants to do is commune with the darkness as much as possible, to the point where it's completely disintegrated his body. He's literally nothing but an ethereal jelly of some kind at this point. And that's why he beamed out of the system and why we lost our raid.
Raids.
So
lost 4 raids.
Yeah, right. Lost raid layers. So I've been thinking about this quite a bit. This leads into a different thing about raids in general, where it's like really nice that we got Vault of Glass again, but I wonder, for our next legacy raids, are they going to be tied into the current storyline a little more? Because if King's Fall comes back, I think they could easily make that a current event and not just a, hey, go back in time and we're not going to really acknowledge it, you know?
It would be interesting if they did.
And then Leviathan as well could be the same thing.
They could do that. I feel like they're just, I mean, they're going to for sure throw King's Fall into the legend sector, but God, I want to see what the fuck that, I want to know what's going on with the Dreadnought personally, but I know it's supposed to be like Osiris went there before he lost Sagira, and it was just like empty or something when he was there, or just like it felt eerie and shit. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I would love to. I mean, it brings into like, we'll talk about it soon with the whole like investigation stuff or like the activities, but like the 2 truths and 2 lies aspect of Oryx is going to come back, and you're like, oh, what's going on with that and stuff. But yeah, Vox Obscura, one last thing for it is the pinnacle reward. I mean, the exotic you get is pretty high amount of like power in terms of like its upper when you unlock it, but that's not the pinnacle reward when you're doing the exotic. I think it's like champion kills or something, and the way it is, it seems like you have to do like 3 or 4 runs with 1 character
just to get the pinnacle
for the week.
Damn.
And that was weird. I was like, why would you want us to do that if you're not really potentially going to get repeat rewards and stuff?
Maybe the timer aspect means that they're like, hey, emphasizing you should just be speedrunning this.
Potentially.
Eventually you'll get really good at just killing the very specific things it tells you to kill. Because I noticed that the first half that I got to get through, it was just like kill the tanks. Like, so if you and a team of a couple people just go and only focus those tanks, you can get through it a little faster, I think.
Yeah. But I do appreciate the time limits on it, just because I do like that it's, I guess, shorter in the aspect of like, we've gotten very long campaign, which I do love. I love that we're getting long ass campaign missions. I do like that we have other forms of long content currently, like Grasp of Avarice is pretty long. So it's nice to have a couple things though that are quick run throughs, just so there's a good balance of like, well, I only have time to do this and this. I don't have time to do this. So that one I appreciate, where it's short, but they make it so you want it to be as short as possible, just so you can make it in time. So you don't really complain about it really in terms of that sense. Next up is the, I guess, like main activity for the Throne World, which is Wellspring. And I think there's like, it's like pretty much 2 versions. There's attack and defense. And defense, you're pretty much like holding zones. And then attack is killing the little like pyramid, little mini pyramid, the simple things that are glowing, and just, it's fun because it's just insane farming more than anything. And you're just killing a shit ton of scorn which is really fun. And I guess the Scorn is the attack and Hive is the defense, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
Yeah, and you get pretty much mixed dialogue from Ikora, Finch, Wormy is there at certain points too, and I think he's just like sassy during it as well. So it's not like crazy lore wise, but it's just fun because the whole thing is it's post campaign, and they're talking about how the Scorn are trying to take advantage of the situation now that Savathun's gone, and you're there to more or less keep order. I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's something like, I think Scorn is the attack version because you're trying to get them out of wherever they are, and then the Hive defense one is like you're trying to keep what you stole from the Scorn or something.
Yes. Yeah. Which is, I like the idea of that just because it does make sense, like, I guess in terms of the way the type of mission it is with the type of enemy works lore wise as well. So I do appreciate that.
I also appreciate that it'll tell you what the reward is for the day. So if you're trying to chase a specific weapon, it's like, oh, okay, so I'll definitely play this today.
That's the hard part too, is that mode, that it's a fun activity, but it can get lackluster because of how often, depending on how much you want a specific weapon to shape, that's available for it, you're farming.
I still need like
lot,
2 weapons for the last investigation.
I still have a lot. I'm still at Tarnation, and we'll get to it soon enough. But yeah, it's a whole thing. Anything else on Wellspring? That's why this one was like a short one. I felt like.
No.
This kind of goes into weapon shaping, but Wellspring is one of the new activities that can provide a special visual effect that you can put in your shaped weapons, which is kind of cool. I think Gambit drops it as well, and something else drops it, but I know the first week it was almost impossible to get, and they fixed the drop rate on that, but I think that's a really nice direction to go, where it's like, give me something to show off a little bit, similar to season. There was armor in the past that were, before you could just buy glows, there were glows that you earned and like effects on the armor that you could earn over time. I forget which specific armors did it, but I think it was during the Guardian games, and one year they did that, where it's like your armor just looked cooler because you played the Guardian game stuff more often.
I know Solstice did that once.
Or Solstice,
Solstice. When
that's
you get
what
the
I was
final
thinking
version,
of.
it would give you the glows.
It was the crack. It was like the crack stuff, right? Yeah. It was really cool. So doing that with guns is a great idea, and I hope they continue to push for, like, every activity honestly should have one.
Yeah,
why not?
No, for sure.
So
I still need to. I still have to get the catalyst for Striga. I just forgot.
I got it yesterday.
I didn't realize when you go to I forget who you can go to, and you can basically buy 2 Ascendant alloys, and I was like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, that was our bad present from Bungie, Rahul.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't get them very easily, like they weren't dropping, so they let you get 2 for 1 that one week, and
I got one from the campaign as well, or at least so now I'm like, cool, I can do my catalyst. Because are those needed for, I haven't checked, but are those needed for other weapons too? Besides Striga?
Well, there's an exotic glaive, right? There's 3 exotic glaives.
Oh god,
so that's what they're
like
for.
9 more. Oh,
you need to make them, and then you need to catalyst them as well. So that's what
fuck.
the Ascendant alloys drop from.
It's the weekly campaign mission.
I thought Wellspring on the hardest difficulty also dropped them, but maybe not. So, anyways, I haven't done that yet. Master Wellsprings might be a nightmare, and we haven't.
I didn't even notice where it was. Like when I click on it, I didn't see an option to even choose a difficulty.
Yeah, I think you have to unlock it.
Oh, I'm not that high tier enough, probably with Finch. Then
it's the Throne World. You got to unlock the higher Wellspring tier. Which
I almost forgot. Just real quick side note. Finch. We didn't really talk about Finch as a character. That was a very interesting reveal when you first see him and you're just hearing him and he's like, the fuck are you guys doing here? Like, you're kind of fucking
his dead guy right next to him the whole time. Really good stuff.
He's like, I just chose not to res him, but I can help you guys out. And your ghost is just a total asshole to him like the entire time, which I just honestly I didn't. Our ghost, I don't like my ghost the entire campaign. I did not like my ghost. Yeah, I was like, he's just. I mean, I get it. he doesn't trust anything after all these betrayals and just unease and all this stuff, but he's just so mean to everyone practically that you communicate with. It's like new or whatnot. And I'm just like, yo, cool off, man. You're my ghost, and I know like I'm just like a kind of husk that runs around, but you know, I wish I had more control over what you say.
Yeah.
But Finch himself, I found him interesting, and I really want more from him. Like at a certain point, you know, the dialogue, the new types of dialogue just kind of hit a stop with him specifically. So I really do want to know more about him and just hear more, and just like, is this just gonna be a ghost without a guardian forever, or like
I find it really funny his
Right.
guardian is just like dead. He just refuses to raise him.
yeah, or like
He's like, yeah, I don't have to. So
just if he ever kind of brings him back or not or whatever. And then there's Amaru, who, you know, you learn about through the patrols, and he's just like, hey, neon nerds, fuck you.
His voice is so good.
Yeah, and then if you do I think specifically the I forget what they're called, but like the higher tier patrols, he then specifically speaks to himself in third, or refers to himself in third person as Daddy Amaru, and you're like,
wait,
who
what?
is this man? Yeah, he's like, hey everyone, Daddy Amaru here.
Our ghost says that he knows him. And
yeah, he's like, he was a bully to the other non-light ghosts in the beginning, and I'm like,
yeah,
what the? That's so random.
Yeah, so I wonder if they'll build that out. We'll have a little ghost off at some point, just a little tribunal of ghosts that we all know now. Oh, sorry, never mind. Not Sagira. She's gone.
Yeah, Sagira's gone.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna bring her back, but I guess not.
We got Glint, we got Amaru, we got Finch, we got our ghost. So, and then the other ghosts that we never see or hear from. Even Kate's ghost never had a voice, and then just gets fucking exploded. So. Yeah.
Whatever happened to that flying thing that Elsie Bray has?
Oh yeah, that weird creature. Yeah,
I think that was in one trailer, and everyone was like, "Is that her ghost? Doesn't look like a ghost. What is that thing?"
Yeah,
don't talk about it.
It's one of those things where it's been now a year, like, because she's only in the expansion. We never actually got anything else from Elsie, and you're just kind of like, now what? It's not going to be like another set of like how many years before we see her again, is it? Like, I hope it's not.
Well, it became like a meme almost that like Ikora never does anything. It's been this many days since Ikora has done something, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why they made her so important for this DLC.
Very much so. Now it's like when you, I guess you look at all of it, you're just kind of like, okay, so now who's next up on the chopping block? Well, I guess Hawthorne, Devram, and Failsafe for the next three of just kind of like, hey, remember these guys?
Yeah, I like Failsafe, but
Failsafe.
I rarely go to Nessus anymore. So
I mean, Devram's the only one I cared about. I liked him a lot.
I like Failsafe's like that's
No Land Beyond, man. Give me the gun, dude. Like he's been holding it for this whole time. Just give it back to me.
You can't. He's perpetually living in a church, just kind of shooting fallen there. He is the guy that's like dregs in the EDZ, and they're like,
I haven't slept in 4 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really. Actually,
there's one more thing I want to say about Fitch. I got a piece of dialogue from him that was so weird, and I don't know, don't quote me on this one because I need to go find it again, where he said to me, hey, you know how us ghosts, we have a piece of the Traveler in us. That's kind of interesting. When the Traveler made us, does that mean that you have a piece of whoever made you? And I felt like that was a really interesting way to point out this fourth wall breaking thing that they've started to do, where they've addressed the player as an entity in the universe a couple times now, where there's been a couple lore books where they're like, yeah, I feel like I'm doing stuff that I'm not really like in full control of, and something's making me do things. And
interesting.
The more that they kind of go into that, it's like, how far are they going to go? It's just kind of just like little tidbits. I don't know, so who knows? Maybe someday there will be a full moment where a character just like looks at the screen and is like, hey, you with the controller in your hand, and you're like, whoa, so I don't know how deep they'll go, but that line really stood out to me. And he has quite a few interesting lines. Apparently has an exo specific line talking about deep stone and stuff like that. Like if you're exo, so go look into this, because I don't think everyone, I feel like there's stuff we haven't found yet as a community around him, and he's just kind of weird in general. So
yeah,
you know, we still don't know if his allegiances are truly 100% on our side. So
nah, that makes sense, honestly. And looking at time, we are limited with what we can talk about. So what I think we'll do is, this is Witch Queen Part 1 and Part 2. So we have enough time. I think we could talk about specifically weapon shaping and maybe Void 2.0. And then Part 2, we'll talk about the raid, preservation, on the investigation board. That way we could at least talk about the exotics too that you get from it. And then like, just exotics in general and Season of the Risen. When we...
Yeah, Risen is big enough that I think we could devote some time to
and then with the raid, you know, talking about the raid itself, we'll take time. Plus we could talk about Rolk and stuff, who's, you know, Rolk's Rolk and his whole background. So that'll be plenty to do in like a Part 2. And once we get to probably the end of the season, we'll do an episode on that. I think will be enough time, because that's also enough time for everyone to do the raid too, and do it enough time so they can explore.
I started looking into the raid lore and like how to. I haven't looked up a video on how to do the raid yet, because I don't really care about spoilers and stuff. It's just, I know it takes so long to figure that stuff out. Like if you go in blind, that I don't have that kind of time. So, and from what I've seen, like I absolutely want to play this raid. It looks like lore wise so like important for what's going forward in Destiny.
So weapon shaping really fast. We're already talking about it a bit, and just like Ascendant alloys, but
I like the idea. I just, the execution could be better.
Yeah.
And they've already addressed that, like, okay, we heard the initial issues of like the inventory size, like the amount of resources you can hold is like terrible.
So they changed it.
Yeah, they already like doubled it. And then like I think they already said that for next season they're gonna simplify it, and it's not gonna have like 3 different types of resources.
Yeah, why bother?
Like
which is it that they doubled it, or is it unlimited now? I wasn't sure.
I thought they doubled it.
Okay, because I was like, when I noticed the little red text of like, hey, you're about to max out, not come up when I had all the, because it happened and I couldn't shape anything yet because I didn't have anything new that I wanted, because I haven't been farming Wellspring and I still didn't have the Ascendant alloys for Striga. So I'm like, I can't do anything. I just started vaulting all my finished attuned weapons that were ready to just hit. And then once it changed, I just activated all of them and got all the rewards from each one. And I'm like thinking 2 things. I'm like, either it's unlimited because I'm doing like a dozen of these, or they just, I was worried. I'm like, am I like doing this, but there's no more red text and I'm just not getting anything?
Just
I'm like,
oh, no.
I'm like, fuck.
That'd be incredible.
I was like slightly worried a little bit, but it didn't show up. So I was like, okay, cool. I think I'm fine. But I just don't like that. I guess for certain ones, it takes so long.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's like just the length of time, which I
thought it was fine when it was like, I thought it was just going to be just do one of them and then you get it. Like just like, you know, try it out essentially. But some of them you have to attune like 5 weapons. You got to find 5 attuned ones. And it's just that.
And then once you do it, you have to, when you finally,
and then the real grind happens.
Now you have to kill with it and get to level, all of them are level 16 to get like the max amount to unlock all traits within the gun. And it's like, I get it, you know, in a sense, because you are creating the god roll. You're either creating the role you want, or you're making the god roll. And you don't have to farm for the god roll. You just have to farm to make it instead of potentially find it or something. So you do get like, I guess, the sense of like, well, you got to really earn it if you're not going to be like farming just to find something randomly to have it potentially drop maybe. Just like how many times I think I was using raid spoils to get the fucking like getting succession and heritage god rolls and stuff in the Deepstone and whatnot. So I get it, but it's still just frustrating at certain points depending on how much you want something. For me personally, the frustration comes from the fact that more or less the investigation board quests that you have to do for just shaping. I'm
stuck on that because I got 2 more weapons I gotta do.
I'm still early in it. I'm like in the point where I'm at come to pass in Tarnation. And I just
that's
recently got come to pass, and I'm like, finally, and I'm like, Tarnation. Oh right, shit. And
I don't know if I've gotten a single attunable Tarnation yet.
I just got a Tarnation. I didn't even get it attuned. I finally unlocked Tarnation. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, there's some things they really need to rebalance. Like, for instance, if you're gonna need all these guns and you need to be able to shape all of them for this other quest, it should just be the first time you get it. It's always a red version. Like, there's no reason not to do that.
Yeah.
The second thing that I'm noticing is the whole point for me of shaping is time, right? Like, if I don't have time to keep playing Grasp of Avarice or whatever big pinnacle thing over and over again to get those god rolls, then reward my time with something that I know what I'm getting into, right? That to me, it seems like that's the goal. That's why you would make the system in the first place, is to reward the people who don't have time, but still have them feel like they have a sense of journey or to, leveling up overall. But at this point, it's more of a slog than anything. And also, there really is just that one meta version of the gun that you want to work for. And that to me defeats the whole purpose of crafting weapons. Like, if there isn't multiple ways I want to go with this gun that I have to kind of decide through, then just give me that best version. Like, you guys know what it is. Like, Bungie knows what the best version of the gun is. We're going to figure it out in less than a week. So just give me that version of the gun if I level it up, right? But no, instead, I feel like it's something designed for new players or returning players who haven't played the game in a long time, and it does not reward them in any way.
No.
It only rewards the people like us who are going to go do the research, who are going to try things out, word of mouth from other diehard veterans. But with that being said, that's the legendaries. The exotics, I just got Striga Catalyst last night. That's good. That is how more exotics need to be, in my opinion, where it's like, you're being rewarded for using this exotic and you get the catalyst guaranteed for using it for 1,000,000 years. There's so many weird specific things you have to do for every single exotic to get its catalyst or to boost the catalyst up when you get the random drop. It's like, you can see a lot of legacy things that they're trying to phase out. And I wouldn't be surprised that if, in a year from now, all the new exotic weapons are craftable instead of being drops from some sort of quest or something.
Kind of like retroactive, just like they're doing with the Void 2, like changing the light classes.
Exactly. Like you can see them always going in the right direction in some form, but then there's just like two things that are just a little tweaked off, and it's just like, just fix those now. Don't make us wait.
And that's like one thing I do like about the crafting weapons, because you're going to get the god roll eventually because you're going to create it.
Right.
Is normally when I fill up my vault, because I'm just like, I don't want to deal with, like, in that very moment, I don't want to deal with all the weapons I just got. So
and then later you'll figure it out.
And I'll go to like light.gg, look at all the rolls and like their ratings and everything else. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get rid of this and this. And it's like a whole process for these weapons that are craftable now. And if I already have that crafted weapon or the crafted version, then I don't even have to think about all the drops I'm getting for them. I'm just like, delete. I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter. You're no longer necessary. That is nice,
what I love. The idea of like eventually just needing the one. And if I want to spend the resources, I can just like make it whatever I want.
Yeah. At least with the guns that I feel like are S+ tier, because like there's actually gradings for certain apps and stuff. I'll make sure to masterwork them. But sometimes I won't remember that was a S tier that I masterworked, because maybe it was just some B or C tier that I did because it was just all I had at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
But I try to do it just so if I know I have something masterworked, I'm like, well, if it's already masterworked, if there's another gun that comes out that's the same type, I can just delete it because I know I already have the best version of it.
Right.
And sometimes I don't know, because I got that. I did the masterwork for the B and C. So I'm like, wait, was that the S tier one? I have to look it up and all this stuff. So that is one thing, another version of like, because the weapon shaping makes that not an issue anymore. Is just that time saver thing.
It's a step in the right direction, but if they continue to limit, let me rephrase that. They're going to have to limit how many weapons can be shaped for it to be worthwhile at all.
Yeah.
The moment they start adding old guns from the pool that we've seen before in any capacity into the shaping is the moment the whole game's economy gets wrecked. And I'm very worried because they keep saying we're going to add more guns into this pool of shape weapons. It's like, well, why not just do it for everything? Like the moment you start adding old stuff into this, you just now have made me go, I don't know what matters anymore.
I was honestly, right? Yeah, I was confused when I saw the list of the tunable or shapeable weapons was like so small. I was like, wait, I thought it was going to be like all weapons.
Right.
But whatever.
But that's the only way it can work. That now, looking at it and seeing how much roles still kind of matter in the general economy of the loot pool, like you have to do it that way. Otherwise, there's no reason to have it whatsoever. And if you guys don't have a Season of the Risen pulse rifle yet, shapeable, go get one because it's insane.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I guess in more time sensitive manner, not related to investigation board, but eventually Season of the Risen will be gone. So it's like you want to make sure that you prioritize getting the Season of the Risen shaped weapons so you can have those forever, which will be useful. But we already passed the 2-hour mark. I think I'm going to add Void 2.0 in the part 2 of Witch Queen discussion. So one other thing too, I remember, James, we never got to cover the 30th anniversary stuff either.
Oh yeah, well that's
we'll save that for next time too, because I feel like
it kind of works because I still haven't done the Avarice dungeon yet.
Oh my god, we have so much to get.
I need a Galahorn.
All three of us, let's do it.
You don't have Gal? Oh my god, yeah, we can do it today.
We'll get a catalyst easy too.
Yeah, it's super easy.
I definitely need to eat something first.
For sure. We got time. But so we'll do next time. I think either in May or June. We'll do the episode. I'll time it so it's right either at the end of. We'll see if there's more at the very end of Season of the Risen, or if it's like enough time in May, like I said, or latest is June, because I think that's when you get the new season is somewhere in mid-June. But we'll talk about 30th anniversary, Season of the Risen, the Vow of the Disciple raid, Preservation, the Investigation Board, exotics, all the exotics that we got from this armor and guns, and Void 2.0. So we got a good amount. It's just, I think the main thing that took the most time was the lore itself and the story.
Yeah, there's a lot.
We'll have raid lore this time, next time, I guess, for sure. Plus all the Risen talk as well for that story. And Goonies Vow to the Goonies 30th anniversary stuff for sure. And Halo talk a little bit. But yeah, that'll be next time, guys. And then if you guys, of course, want to contact us, send us any questions, comments, feedback, you can at sutrosidetalk@gmail.com. Once again, the title of the show @gmail.com. You can subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, whether it's podcast or YouTube. And then if it's Apple Podcasts, give us that 5-star review. Spotify, rate us, and then YouTube, give us that like as well as the subscribe. If you can, check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. For now, we're still just active at the moment on Instagram, but it's all at Sutro Sidetalk. You can follow James on Twitter at InvaderJim124. You can follow me on Twitter at GoGoComzilla. And you are still the Glaive, of course, the Enigma.
Not today.
Correct? Oh, you're not?
Today, you can follow me at dandy_plays. I'm gonna start using it again. So
excellent. Are you gonna just out of curiosity? Are you gonna potentially stream again at a certain point?
We'll see. I'm feeling better about that. I have 2 PCs, so I'm like ready to do the 2 PC setup so that the quality of the 3080 Ti actually comes through. Because otherwise, it gets halved when you're streaming on one machine. So that's one of the reasons I stopped.
Would you be a Twitch streamer? Or would you be an edgy YouTuber or Facebook streamer?
YouTube, because then I get that freaking 1440p quality.
Oh, you do? Oh shit!
Have you seen it, dude? We'll talk about that later.
Okay,
insanely nice. So.
All right, yeah. Follow my Dandy Plays. We'll have it in the show notes. You can follow them there as well. And then of course we will. I am saying it. I'm calling it now. We will this month for sure have an episode on Horizon 2 Forbidden West. I will have it done. I will play the shit out of it. I'll platinum it this month. It will all happen. Maybe not. I will see.
Yeah.
If it's one playthrough, then yes. If not, then fuck. We will also potentially this month do an episode on, because the actually came out today. I'm gonna watch it a little bit. The final episode to Attack on Titan. should have just came out
of this season.
Of this fucking whatever the fuck they're doing. I don't fucking know.
Mm-hmm.
Is it gonna be a movie, a season? I don't know. They probably already said it, but we've been recording, so I don't know.
They said today. They said today, 2023 is the final season.
I thought that was a joke.
Oh, so it's part 3.
Oh, never mind.
I'm so mad.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll have that. We'll still talk about part 2. I don't know if James, did we talk about part 1?
For what? Oh, for
Attack on Titan? I think we did.
I don't know if we ever got. We might have. Yeah, no, we did. I think
we did. Yeah,
because I remember being like, talking about how I was so confused where it ended, and just being like, "Wait, that's supposed to be the finale?"
Yeah.
What?
Andreas, I don't know if you would want to come on for that or not for Attack on Titan.
I mean, hey, you'll need moral support at least.
Okay. All right, and then we'll probably have more.
Aaron's the bad guy now. Woo!
Well, I think I'm gonna try to get Momo back on again too, because I have 2 more animes to talk about. For sure. I don't know if you watched. It was Yashahime and My Dress Up Darling, which I actually, from her and Chris Schneider's recommendation. So there's a lot to talk about there. But yeah, maybe it'll just be all one episode. It'll just be a big anime episode. We'll figure it out. It's just another fun anime time. And then I think we'll also be talking soon about there's a ton of shows and still movies backlogged, but James, we just watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, so we'll be talking about that soon. Maybe because I don't even still know if we're gonna see it in theaters or not. A certain
don't say it. Just don't even say it, man. Don't say the M word, dude.
Fucking Morbius. I don't even know. I put Andreas. I don't know if I told you. I put a poll on Twitter, and I said I've seen Batman 3 times. Should I see it a 4th time or not, or watch Morbius? I can say right now, seeing it a 4th time is winning. Morbius is in 2nd place.
I answered Morbius.
Oh, you did.
Oh, that was you. That was me.
Okay, it's really oh shit. But yeah, we got all that stuff coming up, and then eventually, Moon Knight and Halo will finish. If I actually watch all of Halo, I still don't know yet, so that's gonna be a fucking thing. I think I even got Oren might come on for that, and I don't want to. He'll be the most positive person. We'll see. But yeah, we have all these things coming up, so there's a lot of content to get through. But until then, we will catch you next week. See you later.
Thanks for listening.
Have a good one.